Hi guys, so I haven't done a live in so long because I've been super busy, but I've only got one cake to do this evening, so I thought why not go live because I have the time. So I'm not sure how much I'm going to include because I want to watch some TV tonight, but I am just going to decorate as much as I can. I think I'm going to do another live tomorrow, only because this is on a temporary board. I don't have the final board for it, I don't think, but I might do. But they're being delivered tomorrow, so I don't want to transfer it onto another board with a drip because I don't want to ruin the drip. So it just depends whether I think I can transfer it to a new board with the drip or not. If not, we'll just be doing the ombre coat and then I can answer some questions. But yeah, I thought I would come on and see how many people join. So yeah, we're just going to see how far we get. But like I said, I think I have a board. I'm just going to check, but I don't think I've got the right board. No, so it's a covered board for this cake. It's got quite a detailed covered board with like chocolate all over it, so it needs an 11-inch board and it's an 8-inch cake. So yeah, the 11-inch boards arrive tomorrow morning with the boxes as well. So I've also got to go and get some bits from Tesco's tomorrow morning. I've ordered a collection, so I'll be doing that as well. But yeah, so we're probably just going to be doing the ombre coat for this evening, but I thought I would come on because I know a lot of people like the live, so I thought even if it's just like half an hour, then it's fine. Hello to everyone that's joining. Love the dark hair, thank you. It looks a lot better with makeup. I obviously haven't got any makeup on, and it's just shoved up in a bun. But yeah, I got it done at the weekend. I got it done on Saturday, so it's a lot darker now because I had it done brown from bleach blonde back in December, and then this is the first time I've had it done since, so it's a lot nicer colour. Hey VRL, so we've got 18 people on, so I'm going to start. Right, so because it's ombre, we're just going to be doing lots of splatters of colour, like little dots all over it. It is red and white, but I found with the last ombre cake that I did that was red, the red blends quite a lot with the white, so I'm going to be doing very little red because I found that it kind of took over the cake a bit. When I did the last one, there was like too much red on it because it's quite a dark colour compared to the white, so I'm not going to be putting as much red on it. But this is just crumb coated. It's Victoria sponge and vanilla buttercream, and yeah, we're going to do the final coat. When are you going to be doing your podcast? I'm really sorry about how long it's been since I've done a podcast. Like I say, I've been so busy and I just haven't had the chance because the podcast takes so long to do. So filming it as in like a video, again, that will probably be, I'm hoping from next week. So what is it? It's Wednesday. So I'm thinking from this Sunday, it will hopefully have video. Fingers crossed. But I'm planning to do a kind of midweek episode just to go up, just to do like a kind of catch up over the past 2 weeks because I haven't done a podcast the past 2 weeks because I've been busy, because I had the market the last podcast day, and then the time before that I had 8 cakes. So both times when I was meant to film the podcast, I had too much to do. But I'm thinking that I will film a little midweek one, give you an update on everything that I've been up to, just like a general chat one, and then this weekend we'll be back to a proper episode because I've got more time this week. I'm currently editing the vlog for Friday. That's why I thought I'd go live, because I'm editing the vlog, which is the prep vlog for the, not this weekend, just gone last weekend, because there was so much footage from that weekend. So I'm doing the prep vlog, which was like all the fondant work that I did, all the cake toppers, all of that. And then the episode after that will be all of the cakes. So yeah, we got quite a lot from that weekend. So I'm going to answer some questions whilst we're doing the ombre coat. So I've answered the podcast one. Do you prefer doing 8, 6 or 4-inch cakes? I would probably say 8 is really common at the moment, because obviously there's like bigger gatherings, so more people are doing it. But I do probably prefer 6, just because 6 is easy. Like there's no risk of like wobbling like there is with 4-inch. So it's easy to do, and they also look really nice because a 6-inch is like the perfect ratio of width to height, because they're nice and tall, but they're also not that wide, whereas 8-inch is obviously wider. So it means that you have to make them taller, or they're a little bit shallower. Like this one isn't crazy tall. I mean, it's still, I think it's like 6 inches. I actually have a tape measure. How tall are you? Okay, so it's 6.75 inches. So my cakes are still pretty tall, my 8-inch ones, but my 4 and my 6-inch ones are typically 7 or 8 inches at least, so they're usually like definitely quite tall, whereas the 8-inch, because you're getting more cake width wise, and obviously there's more decorations and stuff, that goes into the cost. So that's why I only make it 1 layer shallower, because otherwise you just get so much cake, unless people obviously need the portions, but a lot of the time they're doing it for the look. And I do like the 4-inch, but like I say, there's a bit more effort because you have to make sure they're not wobbly, so they need a lot of fridge time, whereas the 6-inch, it's so easy to just stack them and shove them in the fridge and you don't have to worry. Any advice? You're struggling with your vanilla cake mix, it's so crummy. What do you mean? Like, do you mean once it's baked it's crummy? I'm not sure, because like most cakes, when you're doing the crumb coat, they're gonna have little bits of like fallout, which is why you do the crumb coat, because a lot of the crumbs do come off. I find that if you're doing the crumb coat too soon, or like cutting it too soon, so I bake mine and then I leave them to cool for an hour in the tins, and then I start stacking them. So they need to be completely, like, not even warm, they need to be completely cold by the time that I stack it, because I find that if you start stacking it and cutting it, because like I cut the tops off mine, then it just crumbles a lot. But I think that's pretty normal. I don't think you'll get a recipe that isn't crummy. It's more how much time you give it to kind of cool down before you start stacking it, because I think that's the main thing. You've got to give it plenty of time. I always do enough prep with all my cakes, so I make sure that I'm giving myself enough time for cooling and all of that, because as soon as you start stacking a warm cake, it's just a nightmare. Any tips for cake pops? Mine keep failing miserably. If you can be a bit more specific, what is it in regards to cake pops that you're struggling with? Is it them staying tempered, like not melting? Is it the thickness of your chocolate, filling, anything like that? If you let me know a little bit more specific, then I can probably help. But cake pops, I always give them plenty of time in the freezer. You can, if it's not hot, do it for like 5 to 10 minutes for most of the coats when you're melting the chocolate and putting it in the mold. However, when it's this hot, I leave them in there for like 20 minutes before I even think about taking them out. What kind of buttercream do you use? I use American buttercream always. I think that Swiss meringue, from what I've seen, one, it's just more hassle. Like, I personally don't need to use anything other than American buttercream because like it works for me, so I don't want to change it. So I just use American buttercream, and Swiss always seems to look very soft, and I worry that it won't stay, and that your cake will sink a bit, which I find happens when people use cream. If you use like fresh cream frosting, a lot of the time the cakes can sink because it's not strong enough or like stiff enough. My cake lollies keep blooming, so that's where it's not tempered, so you want to make sure you're not burning your chocolate. I melt my chocolate for 20 seconds at a time. It takes absolutely ages. Like, I do it in the microwave. I don't do it over the hob because, like I say, I find that over the hob it can burn a lot easier than it can in the microwave. Whereas the microwave, you do 20 seconds, you take it out and you can just leave it for, you know, a couple of minutes before you put it in again if it was boiling hot. Whereas when it's on the hob, I find that it's quite hard to cool it back down. So yeah, 20 seconds and just keep doing that until it's melted. They always fall out when I'm dipping them like off the stick and sometimes break. So that's the problem. I don't dip mine at all. I use a mould, so I'll show you if I can get one out. So I use a mould like this. This is a geometric mould. I pour the chocolate in here and then I put a stick in there. I obviously spread it all around the mould so that it covers all areas. Then I put my cake pop mix in that once the chocolate's set. And then I cover it with chocolate and put it in the freezer. I don't do any of the dipping because, like you say, mine's always falling off and it's always more hassle than it's worth. Like, the moulds make it easy for you because you can literally just paint the chocolate in there and it's as simple as that. So I just don't feel the need to do the dipping because I find it has to be a lot more set, and if it's not set it will just fall off. So I just use the molds. It's way easier, saves a lot of time, and you can also do multiple at a time because you shove them in the molds and you're not having to wait to dip them, because again with the dipping, if the chocolate starts to set, like it starts to go hard when you're dipping them, like if you take too much time, then again you've got to like try and remelt it, so it just wastes a lot of chocolate as well. So I just personally prefer to just use the mold, paint the chocolate in there, and it's easy. So we've got quite a few. Thanks, have you got jam in that Victoria sponge? Yes, so I would call anything that doesn't have jam in it just a plain sponge. So like this would be vanilla sponge, but I only call it Victoria sponge if it's got the jam in it, because a lot of people assume, like customers assume, that it will have jam in it if you refer to it as that. So yeah, you always want to make sure whether they actually want jam, because some people don't. Once you decorate your cake, do you put it in the fridge for the night when there is an order for the next day, like one you're doing now? Do you keep it out so it comes to room temperature? So I leave it down to the customer to bring it back to room temperature, because I personally don't like my cakes to be soft like before they leave me. So the way I do it is this will be going in the fridge, it will stay in there all night, and it will stay in there all the way until the person collects it tomorrow, which is at 5 p.m. The buttercream, before anyone like worries, the buttercream is a massive thick layer of basically shield for your cake, so it will not dry out. That stops it from drying out. And one, it's boiling outside, so you definitely can't keep them at room temperature at the moment because it's way too hot. But even if it wasn't too hot, I just personally like to leave them in the fridge. I get them out an hour before needed, and that is perfectly fine. That is plenty of time. Obviously, if it's hotter, I would say 30 minutes. But yeah, you definitely don't need to keep them at room temperature. Also, it saves you any hassle, because I find that if you keep it in the fridge and it looks rock solid, but it's not, because as soon as it's left out for an hour, it will be perfectly fine. But it means that when it leaves me, it's rock solid. So when someone takes it in the car, if they put their finger in it, if they knock it, if it hits against something, it is not going to move, it's not going to dent, nothing is going to happen to it. Because I don't want there to be any indents. I don't want, because some people hold the box wrong, like if people don't hold it from the bottom and they hold it from the sides, then they might imprint the cake if it's too soft, whereas mine are rock solid. So if they do any of that, then I don't have to worry that they're going to damage the cake, because the last thing that I want is someone to say, oh, I got home and it had a dent in it, and I'm like, well, sorry, but if it's down to the way you're carrying it or the way that it was put in the car, but that way you don't have to worry. So yeah, I would recommend leaving it in the fridge as long as possible, because it will come back to room temperature once the customer's got it. And a lot of the time customers don't put it in the fridge because they don't have the space, unless it is a hot day. But so that just means that when they don't put it in the fridge, it's going to come back to room temperature anyway, so you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, it's just so much easier to keep it at room temperature because you just don't have to worry that it's going to melt and that it's going to soften and get any marks in it or anything. I was getting orders in reliably from my baking business every week, and now it's been over a week since my last order. Any tips on how to get out of this slump? If I'm completely honest, there are going to be times where business is lower. I definitely have times where I would consider it to be lower than usual, because if you think about it, there are times of year where there are more birthdays, and then there are times of year where there's more occasions, so like Christmas, Easter, Father's Day, Mother's Day, all of these things, and things like summer when people are out doing more, they might not necessarily be having cakes because they're out with their friends. So it can be like swings and roundabouts, but I would just say carry on being consistent with social media, posting, and if you have free time, make sure you use it effectively. So like whenever I have free time, I'm always doing like cake dummies or doing new brownie flavors, like anything to keep myself busy because I don't like to kind of like waste time. So if you can, just try and keep busy and try new cake flavors, and then you can add those to your menu. I think I've got about 15 cake flavors now because when I've had time off, I've just tried new cake flavors to try and expand the menu. So anything like that you can try out, and just to make new content as well, because even if you just make content to be photographed and put on your Instagram so that people think that you're busy. I mean, I think that's what a lot of like new bakers do in the beginning. I definitely did. Like I did a lot of cakes for like cake dummies or like family birthdays because I was like, right, I want some more photos to go on my Instagram. So yeah, just try and keep as busy as possible because there's going to be slumps and then there's going to be busier times. Do you put your cake lollies in the fridge or freezer? So I put them in the freezer to set. So that's when you're doing like a layer of chocolate in the mold, and then when you put the cake in there, and then when you put the final coat, that all goes in the freezer. But once that's set, I take them out of the mold and then just put them in the normal fridge. They can sit at room temperature, but obviously at the moment it's way too hot to do that. But yeah, most of the time they just go in the fridge. There is a market opening in July for anyone who wants to sell any of their supplies or bakes, and do you think I should, as it is local and I can get people to order after? It's definitely worth it. It obviously expands your customer base because people at the market might not know that you are a local baker, so it gets your name out. So that's why I like doing the markets, and they're just nice because you get to see people. I like the social side of doing a market. I love just chatting to people, so that's why I like doing the markets. But yeah, it's definitely worth it. You want to check like how much it costs to do the market, and then work out whether it's like financially viable, whether you can afford the pitch fee, because some of them vary. Like I've done ones where it's £100 pitch fee, I've done ones where it's £25, so they can vary quite a lot. And then you want to work out how much money you need to make so that you don't lose any money. So like how much you need to sell, and also do a bit of rough estimating to say like, right, I think I can make 200 items and that will sell. Do you level off the cake on the top and cut the edges off too? See that done, but it seems a lot of waste. I only level off the top because obviously most cakes bake slightly curved. And if they bake flat, then it sometimes means that they aren't rising. So I prefer if they rise and then I just cut off the top. Because yeah, I find if you do them too low a temperature and they just stay flat and don't rise as much, then they can be a bit moist, which I don't necessarily want them to be too much. So yeah, I make sure that they're fully cooked, but aim for a rise top and then just cut it off. But it's not majorly rise, so there isn't a lot of wastage. It's kind of like the crust on a piece of bread. That's what I refer to it as. So it's not any like important part sort of thing. But I don't cut the sides because if you're putting them in the right size tin, you shouldn't need to cut the sides. I put them in 8-inch tins or 6-inch or 4, so I don't cut the sides because I'm using the right size tin. Do you deliver cakes? Yes, I do. I just charge per mile. It's 45 pence a mile for weddings, I think, and then 40 pence a mile for birthdays, mainly because birthday cakes are more local. So that's why I charge a higher rate, because I'm typically going to be going further for weddings. Right, last little bit, and then we will scrape, and hopefully there won't be too much red, because I don't want the red to overpower the white. So I'm just filling in all the gaps with white, and then we can always add more red afterwards. Gaps, gaps, gaps. Right, so we're just going to do a little ring around the top. We're not going to cover the top because it's a drip cake, so the whole top will be covered with chocolate. So I'm just going to do a little edge. Right, so I'm going to scrape now, and fingers crossed it's not too red. Perfect. So with the excess, I'm just putting it in a spare bowl. I'm making my first wedding cake soon and I'm really anxious. Any advice for nerves? I mean, I just kind of wing it, but I would say make sure you're prepared. Like, prepare as much in advance as you can. When I know that I'm busy, I prepare like boxes, so like cake boxes, I do them all in advance. Cake toppers, I do all in advance, because like the more you can get done in advance, any fondant details, the less stress you're going to be, because all you have to worry about is the cake. So yeah, I typically just try and do as much as possible in advance so that you're not stressing on the few days leading up to it. But yeah, just try and have as much prep as possible. That's all I can really recommend. I'm doing my first wedding cake in a couple of weeks. It's a 3-tier cake, so should be interesting, but I'm very, very excited. I think I've got 2 this month. One of them, they didn't tell me it's a wedding cake, but I think it is. But it's only a little 4-inch cake, but the topper is Angela and blank, because I don't want to share both their names, but yeah, so it's very wedding looking, but I still charged accordingly. So obviously wedding cakes I do charge more for, but it was a very simple design, so that's why I'm not too worried. But yeah, they didn't tell me it was a wedding, and I'm also not setting up for it. I usually set up for wedding cakes, so because it's a 1-tier, I'm collecting, they're collecting, so that's why I'm not as worried. But if I was setting up, then I would definitely be charging more. We're gonna add a little bit more red here and there just to bring that colour into it. What age did you start baking? I did like charity bakes, but I never did anything like this. Like, none of my work was ever very good. I only started properly baking literally last year. I think it was just a bit of like beginner's luck sort of thing. I'm quite creative anyway, so I just started baking and hoped for the best, and then I learned all the kind of skills quite quickly, so it was easy to learn like various different techniques. But and now, because I just do it so often, it just kind of comes naturally, and I don't have to sort of try too hard. But obviously in the beginning it was definitely very stressful every time I made a cake. I was very like nervous, but now I don't get as bad. But yeah, definitely haven't been baking for like ever. Right, we are just scraping until we get to the point where I like the colour. I'm going to add a little bit more red because I want it to be brighter. I have finished my mock exam for year 10 now, and now I have more time to perfect my bakes and learn new skills. For cupcakes, when I do a rose design, I find it quite difficult to get it close and not too far apart. The only thing I can say when it comes to stuff like that is just go as slow as you can. Whenever I'm doing cupcakes, I just try and do them as slow as I can, because as long as the icing isn't too like wet, then a lot of the time you can go really slow and kind of perfect the shape and kind of like wangle it the way that you want it to be. But yeah, I'm not very good at like tips for cupcakes, because I kind of just ice them. Like I say, a lot of my decorating I kind of just wing it. I don't do anything majorly in particular, which is why I try and do the videos, because then people can kind of see what I'm doing, because I'm not very good at explaining it. This bit is very thin, this corner. I love this, very relaxing. Thank you. Yeah, I find it quite relaxing to just be on live and decorate. It's quite satisfying. I'm using the Finch Bakery scraper. It doesn't matter what pattern you have on this side, because you can just use the straight side on that side. Right, we are nearly there. Just getting rid of any air bubbles. I'm just picking what side I want as the front. I always do that when I'm icing, just so that I get an idea. I think I want you as the front. So I just mark it in whiteboard pen. So just mark it on the board so that I know. It's not a very good pen. Let me know if you have any more questions, because I'm just going to be doing the base coat, because I can't do the drip because I need to move it onto the final board tomorrow, so I can't do the drip until then. So yeah, I'm literally just going to be doing the base coat today, and then I might come on live during the day tomorrow, if anyone is available. I don't know if people are working, so that's why I usually try to avoid lives during the day, but this has to go at 5 p.m, so was icing something that you struggle with? Not really. I used to take a lot longer than I do now. Obviously I'm on live, but for one of my upcoming videos, I did a real-time cake decorating, because it shows you how long it takes, and it only took me 10 minutes to fully ice the cake, whereas we've been on live for 30 minutes, but obviously I've been talking. But yeah, so usually it only takes me 10 minutes to do this, whereas it used to take me a lot longer. But I'm definitely a lot quicker at icing now than I used to be. But yeah, it was never really something I struggled with. I find that I used to have very stiff icing, which I don't now. I don't add as much icing sugar now, so that I deliberately get more soft icing sugar and like buttercream, because I find that it's a lot easier to ice if it's soft, because when you're smoothing it, it just smooths a lot quicker and a lot easier if it's a little bit soft. Whereas if your buttercream is really stiff, you're going to find that you've got lots of air bubbles, and it's just a lot harder to actually ice it. So that's why I don't have my buttercream really stiff. We need to smooth you. Right, so perfect. Done. So I've got loads of icing spare, so I'm going to save that because I'm going to use it for the top, and I've also got to cover the board tomorrow. So yeah, I'll be reusing the icing, so I'll shove it in the fridge, which is what I do with any spares. Unrelated question, how many tattoos do you have? I have roughly 9, I think. I've only got 4 on my arms, but I've got others everywhere else. I actually did a video on it, really old video before I started doing all the cake stuff. So if you're really curious, you can go and search back and have a little look. Right, so where is it? There is the front. So this is the front. That's where I've chosen as the front, because I think it's got an even amount of white and red, whereas some of the other areas have more white or more red, so I've tried to pick the front. And then we're just going to shove it in the fridge overnight, as I said, and it will just stay in there uncovered. I don't cover it at all. I've never found that I need to. I used to cover them in cling film, and it was the worst thing I ever did because it would just smudge the icing. So I don't know why I ever did that, but it just made it way more harder because it just ruined the icing. So definitely don't do it. Right. Done. And also, if you're doing colours like red or black, make sure you get it to a colour which you're happy with. So like this is the red that we're currently at. And then what you do is, if you do it the night before and you shove it in the fridge, people always recommend putting icing in the fridge to darken, and it works the same whether it's on a cake or in a pot like this. It works exactly the same. So you want to always get it to a point where you're happy with it. Like, I'm happy with that color, but I want it a bit darker if I can. I'm not fussed if I can't. So what I do is I obviously ice the cake, put it in the fridge, and then when I come to it tomorrow morning, it will be darker. So it develops overnight whilst in the fridge, rather than developing it in a tub and then it not being iced. So I prefer to get it iced as soon as possible. So yeah, I've obviously iced it, and then now I can relax rather than putting the icing in the fridge to develop. And even so, sometimes if it doesn't develop, then obviously you've left it in there overnight for no reason. So but red and black are really difficult to get. For today's, I actually used some new colouring because I usually use Colour Splash, but it's not, for red, it's not dark enough. And I did used to use Wilton, but it used to go a little bit pinky. So everyone recommends this. So I used the Red Extra by Sugar Flare to get this red, and it worked perfectly because, as you can see, it's a really nice red, and it will go darker than that because literally as I was mixing it, it was getting darker and darker. Like, once I'd stopped adding colour, the more I mixed it, and then when I put it on the cake, it's just gradually got darker and darker. So that's really good because it's a new colour. So I got it off Amazon because I wanted it to come by today. Otherwise you can get it from like Cake Decorating Co and various other places, but I wanted it with 1-day delivery because we have Prime. So I think that's everything. And then for the white, I literally just beat the buttercream for ages and then it went white. But I do have the Wilton white because it's now back in stock. So I also have that. I've got like 3 bottles of it. So yeah, I think that's everything. I will probably go live again tomorrow during the day. So if you're around, feel free to check it out. Obviously it will be uploaded anyway onto YouTube because the lives stay on there. So you can always watch it in the evening if you're not free. But fingers crossed I can go live on there. Otherwise I will go live on TikTok and upload it to YouTube. One of the two. But yeah, I'm gonna go now because I think we're watching TV before we go to bed. So I'm not sure though, it might just be me. But yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow or in my next video. So I hope you enjoyed the live and I will see you later. Bye guys.